Hi everybody and welcome. Since this is the first in our series, I just want to say a quick word about what we're going to be doing. I'm interested in questions that can open out the Parsha. And whether you're a teacher looking to inspire your class, or a parent looking to engage your children, or just sitting at a Shabbos table looking to take the conversation somewhere deeper, my hope is that these questions will give you the tools to do just that. Now this week's Parsha is Parsha Miketz, and it's also Shabbat Hanukkah. So just a quick word on wisdom. See, our conflict with the Greeks wasn't just about exile. It was about something deeper. When the sages looked into the first words of the Torah and they saw the pasuk, Va'aretz hayita tohu vohu, v'choshech al pnei tehom, the land was chaos and nothingness, and there was darkness on the face of the deep, they read into these words the four kingdoms of exile, the four phases of history that Israel would have to pass through until redemption. And you know where Greece lies? In the darkness. They said, why was Greece the choshech? Because they darkened the eyes of Am Yisrael. They took away from us the primary tool of wisdom, which is the soul. It's true that the intellect may be the seat of the soul, but it's only its tool, not its master. And that's going to inform our first question. You know, amazingly, the word wisdom appears for the first time in our Parsha. It appears, in fact, in the context of Paro's dream. He has a dream. You can look it up in the Parsha and read it. And once he awakes and he's disturbed because he can't understand what happened, of course he calls for all his magicians and wise men. Chachmeha. That's the first usage of the root chacham in the whole Torah. It's followed very closely by a young boy, a slave boy in fact, an ivri, taken from the pits, washed off, brought before Paro, you guessed it, Yosef, the dreamer, brought to interpret his dreams. And after Yosef is able to unfold for Paro the meaning of his deepest night secrets, he turns to him with a very interesting piece of advice. He says, V'atah yira Paro ish navon v'chacham, v'shitehu al eretz Mitzrayim. Now it says you should find someone understanding and wise and place him over the whole land. And what, of course, does Paro do? He looks around and he says, is there anyone as wise and understanding as you? So here's your question. Why is it that wisdom appears for the first time in our Parsha? And for the bonus, what's the connection to Hanukkah? Okay, question number 2. This one's a little bit more to the heart. You know, we all have our own family struggles, and apparently Yosef had more than his fair share. In last week's Parsha, we saw that he didn't get along with his brothers, so much so that they beat him up, threw him in a pit, and sold him into slavery. You know, and Yosef, we know, loved his father from the beginning of the story. But here's a very simple question. Once Yosef had been taken from the pit and made viceroy over all of Egypt, why didn't he contact his father? I mean, Rashi tells us that Egypt was only 6 days' travel from Hebron. Surely a man as wealthy and powerful as Yosef could handle that. Now, there are answers. The Ramban claims that Yosef was trying to arrange that his dreams that he had in last week's Parsha, that the sun and the moon and the stars would bow down to him, were going to happen. And he sees this in the dynamic of our story between Yosef and his brothers. The Abarbanel will claim that Yosef wanted to see whether his brothers hated Benjamin just as he hated him. But you know, a teacher of mine once pointed me toward next week's Parsha, Vayigash. Go look in the 44th chapter, starting around with the line 27, and you'll see the last thing that Yosef hears from Yehudah before he can't hold back anymore and he reveals himself to his brothers is the fact that his father had been deceived when he was sold into slavery. So here's my question for you. Why didn't Yosef contact his father? Could it be perhaps that he suspected that his father was part of the conspiracy? I don't know. Okay, third question, final question. It's not really a question, it's an opportunity for learning. You know, Yosef is the story of a young boy sold into slavery, who himself is a dreamer, who is elevated before the king, interprets a dream, and through that interpretation brings the king to recognize God, and through that to place him as a powerful ruler over the land. And there's an amazing parallel between Yosef and Daniel. If you haven't read the book of Daniel, I highly recommend it. But at the very least, you should go look at the first 2 chapters. And there you will see a stunning parallel about a young boy taken captive, raised in slavery, and then brought out of that slavery to interpret a dream. Through that dream, bringing the king to recognize God, and through that recognition, gaining power over the whole land. So here's my question to you. What is the relationship between Daniel and Yosef? And in a slightly more detailed fashion, if you want to understand the difference between Egypt and Bavel, why is it that Paro was able to reveal his dream to Yosef, but Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Bavel, made Daniel first reveal the dream and then its interpretation? Those are our questions till next week. Shabbat Shalom.